Let me introduce myself. I'm Anna. Dentistry runs in my blood. Both my parents and my granddad were doctors of teeth. Granddad left me a nice chunk of change when he passed. Between that and the dough I'd saved from filling cavities and yanking wisdom teeth, I managed to scrap together $300,000. Enough to snatch up a cozy house right near my clinic, with a lawn lush enough to make the neighbors jealous. I love that house. It's not just the fresh paint or the way the morning light spills through the bay windows, it's mine, all mine. Bought and paid for with years of staring into other people's mouths. But enough about me. Let's talk about the day my life took a sharp left turn. It was a lazy Sunday, my only day off, and I decided to hit the mall. Just wandering, killing time. That's when it happened. I turned a corner and bam! Collided with this guy, tall, kind of lanky, with a panicked look as he juggled a set of fancy glassware. I reached out to help, but nope, too late. Crash, right there on the shiny tile floor. Pieces everywhere. Oh, shoot. I'm so sorry. I blurted out. My face must have been 50 shades of red. The guy, bless his soul, just shrugged and let out a laugh that echoed down the aisle. Hey, no worries. I've got butterfingers. Should have known better than to try and juggle these. I crouched down, trying to pick up the mess, feeling every bit the klutz. Let me pay for these, please. It's the least I can do. He tried to wave me off. Really, it's fine. Accidents happen, right? But I wasn't having any of that. I insisted, and finally, he relented. All right, if it makes you feel better, sure. After paying for the disaster I caused, he asked, "Coffee?" on me, as a thank you for being decent about this mess. Maybe it was his easy smile or just my sheer embarrassment, but I agreed. That coffee turned into us chatting for over an hour about everything and nothing. His name was Eric. He was a mobile app developer, a real techie, lived in a rented flat not too far from the mall. We even joked about how we could have been neighbors and never known it. Yeah, could have borrowed sugar from you or something, he said with a wink. Or dental advice. Free consultations over coffee, I joked back. Before we knew it, the mall was announcing closing time. We exchanged numbers, and he promised to call. I walked back to my car, shaking my head at how a day that started with me as a bull in a china shop could end with me feeling like I'd just walked out of a rom-com. Eric didn't waste any time. The very next day, my phone buzzed with a message from him. Hey, Anna, how about dinner tonight? I promised to keep all breakables at a safe distance. I laughed at that, the memory of yesterday's disaster still fresh. Sure, why not? I typed back. But let's make it somewhere with plastic plates, just in case. Dinner was at this laid-back pizza place he knew about. The kind of spot where you could yell across the room and nobody would bat an eye. We grabbed a corner booth, and he waved down a waitress with a, "Hey, can we get some menus over here?" that was loud enough to compete with the chatter around us. As we waited for our food, conversation flowed like cheap wine, easy and a bit too much. He had a knack for storytelling, and his hands did half the talking, waving around as he described the latest app he was developing. It's gonna be huge, Anna. Think, like, the next level of dating apps where you don't just see photos, but hear the person's playlist too. Sounds complicated, I admitted, sipping my soda and watching his enthusiasm bubble over. Music and love, huh? Exactly, he exclaimed. Music tells you a lot about a person. More than a bio or a stupid selfie. We dug into our pizza, and he asked about my day at the clinic. I told him about the usual root canals and cavity fillings, nothing as exciting as app development. It's not groundbreaking, but it pays for my house and lets me meet interesting people. Like you, I added with a smirk. Hey, I'm flattered to be considered interesting, he said, raising his eyebrows in mock surprise. Our pizza crusts were the only thing left when he leaned in, more serious now. Anna, I really like you. There's something about you that just clicks with me. I felt the warmth rise to my cheeks. I feel the same, Eric. It's like we've known each other for years, not just days. Then let's not slow down, he suggested, his voice dropping to a near whisper across the table. Let's see where this goes. From then on, we were inseparable. If we weren't at work, we were together, movies, picnics, sometimes just long drives with no destination. He'd show up at my house with takeout from some new place he wanted us to try, and we'd end up talking till the wee hours of the morning. One evening, sprawled on my couch, he turned to me, his expression more serious than usual. Anna, I'm falling hard for you. I don't want games or maybes. I want this, us. I didn't hesitate. I'm all in, Eric. Completely. It felt right, like all the pieces were falling into place. He fit into my life like he was always meant to be there. His clothes started filling up some space in my closet, and his toothbrush found a spot next to mine in the bathroom. It was domestic, comfortable, and just plain real. We were talking about the future one night, lying in my backyard, looking up at the stars. Big family, huh, he mused, his hand finding mine in the dark. Yeah, the bigger, the better. Fill the house with kids and chaos, I said, the idea warming me more than the summer night air. He squeezed my hand. Sounds perfect. Chaotic and loud, but perfect. The wedding day came faster than a heartbeat. I was all nerves and butterflies, but when I saw Eric waiting for me at the altar, everything else just faded away. He was grinning like he'd won the lottery, and honestly, so was I. The ceremony was a blur of vows and cheers, and before I knew it, we were man and wife. The party afterward was loud and lively, just like we wanted. It was during the reception that I first really talked to Eric's parents, who'd flown in from some tropical paradise they'd retired to. His mom, Linda, was all smiles, dripping with jewelry, and his dad, Mark, was this laid-back type who seemed happy just watching everyone else have a good time. Anna, dear, you look absolutely lovely, Linda gushed, pulling me into a hug that felt a bit too tight. We're so thrilled, aren't we, Mark? Mark nodded, a beer in hand. Absolutely. Eric's a lucky guy. I thanked them, feeling a bit overwhelmed. But it was their next words that started to clue me in on the future. We're so glad to be back. Now that we're here, we'll be seeing a lot more of you both, Linda beamed, not noticing my hesitant smile. Looking forward to it, I managed to say, but the music thankfully drowned out any need for further conversation. As the weeks rolled by after the honeymoon, Eric's parents didn't head back to their island. Instead, they took up semi-permanent residence at a local hotel and became regular fixtures in our lives. It started small. Linda would drop by, usually unannounced, to give friendly advice on how I could improve my home. One Saturday morning, she arrived just as Eric and I were enjoying a lazy breakfast. Without knocking, she waltzed into the kitchen and frowned at the spread on our table. Pancakes and bacon? That's not a very healthy breakfast, is it? Linda chided, her nose wrinkling as if she smelled something foul. Eric, bless him, jumped in. Mom, Anna's an amazing cook. We're happy with her food, really. Linda didn't look convinced, but changed the subject. Anyway, I was thinking we need to have a family dinner soon. Invite some of our friends to meet the lovely new bride. She was already planning it out loud, not asking, but telling. I glanced at Eric, who shrugged helplessly. This was his way of keeping the peace, I knew, but it grated on me. This pattern kept up, Linda's visits growing more frequent and her suggestions turning into demands. She started rearranging my kitchen, critiquing my decorating, and even commenting on how I should dress. One day, out of the blue, she declared she was throwing a party at our house. Not asking, declaring. Your house is just perfect for entertaining, Anna. So cozy, and that lawn. My friends will love it. I blinked, taken aback by her nerve. Okay, Linda. When were you thinking? This Saturday, dear. You won't have to worry about a thing. Just some snacks, maybe those cute little finger sandwiches you do? Oh, and make sure there's plenty of ice. You always run out. I stood there, mouth agape, as she pranced around, sizing up my living room for her grand plans. When Eric got home, I let him have it. Eric, your mom's throwing a party here this Saturday. Did you know about this? He sighed, a deep, weary sound. She mentioned wanting to do something nice for her friends. Nice for her, maybe. This is our home, not her social club. I know. But could we just let her have this one? Just to keep the peace? I was fuming, but I agreed. Anything for peace, right? Saturday came, and I found myself up at the crack of dawn, crafting hors d'oeuvres and chilling drinks. Linda arrived early, not to help, but to direct. Make sure the glasses are spotless, Anna. And use the good plates, not those everyday ones. Her friends started flowing in by noon, a parade of perfumed, chattering women who knew my house better than I did by the time Linda was done touring them around. And here's the living room, completely redecorated by Eric and me, she announced, while I gritted my teeth and refilled wine glasses. At one point, Linda cornered me in the kitchen. Make sure you check on Mrs. Henderson regularly. She's almost 80, you know. Can't have her feeling neglected. I was juggling trays and my patience, but I plastered on a smile. Of course, Linda. Anything else? Well, make sure you're smiling. It doesn't look like you're enjoying yourself, dear. The party dragged on forever. Or that's how it felt, with me playing waitress and maid, while Linda played the queen of the castle. By the time the last guest left, I was ready to collapse. Eric helped me clean up, looking as defeated as I felt. Babe, I'm so sorry. I didn't think she'd take over like that, he murmured as we stacked the last dishwasher-safe plate. Yeah, well, she did. And she said it's her son's house. Like I'm just crashing here. Eric, it hurt. Eric's face hardened, and he put the glass down a little too sharply. That's not okay. I'm gonna talk to her, Anna. This isn't right. But even as he said it, we both knew talking to Linda was about as effective as using a sieve to catch rain. She'd nod, smile, and go right back to her ways. And deep down, I feared that this party was just the beginning of her marking her territory, showing me who was really in charge. The aftermath of that first party felt like waking up from a bad dream, except the nightmare was real, and it had set up camp right in my living room. When Linda casually dropped the bomb that she and her friends would now be using my house for their weekly gatherings, my jaw hit the floor. Every Saturday, Anna. Everyone just loved the setup here. It's so much more intimate than the country club, Linda chirped, as if she was doing me a favor. Hold on, every Saturday? Linda, that's really not going to work for us, I replied, trying to keep the panic out of my voice. She waved a dismissive hand. Nonsense, it's settled. Don't fuss. But I wasn't about to let this slide. No, it's not settled. This is our home, not a social club. It's just too much. That's when the storm broke. Linda's face twisted into something ugly, her voice sharp as shattered glass. You ungrateful girl. I'm only trying to keep a social life. What, are you going to deny an old woman that? The argument escalated quickly. She screamed, swore, and even threw a vase that shattered against the wall. Then she dropped a bombshell that chilled my blood. If you don't fall in line, I'll make sure my son leaves you. I can do it, you know. I was stunned. The threat of using Eric's emotional dependency against me was a low blow, and it showed just how far she was willing to go. I spent the night in turmoil, dreading each ring of the phone, each knock at the door. The next Saturday, like clockwork, Linda and her entourage appeared. I felt like a puppet in my own home, serving and smiling through gritted teeth. After they left, leaving chaos in their wake, I knew something had to give. I found Eric in the living room, looking as defeated as I felt. Eric, we need to talk. This can't go on. He looked up, tired. I know, Anna, I know. But what can we do? That's my mom. Your mom is blackmailing me, threatening our marriage to get what she wants. How did we get here? My voice cracked, the weight of the last few weeks crashing down on me. Eric ran his hands through his hair, a sign of his frustration. I don't know, Anna. I don't know what to do. That's when it hit me, an idea so crazy it might just work. What if we got a divorce? Eric stared at me, shocked. Divorce? Anna, I love you, why would? Not for real, I rushed to explain. A fake divorce. We stay together, secretly. Maybe if she thinks she's won, she'll back off. It was risky, but Eric agreed. The next day, we quietly filed for divorce. It was surreal, signing those papers. We even laughed through our disbelief over coffee afterward, whispering plans and promises to each other. Saturday rolled around with the speed of a freight train, and I knew Linda and her parade of friends would soon be knocking at my door, expecting the usual royal treatment. Only this time, I had a different plan. The divorce papers were tucked away in a drawer, and my resolve was as hard as the knock on the door that morning. I swung the door open, planting myself firmly in the threshold. Morning, Linda. How can I help you today? The surprise on her face was almost comical as she stared at me, standing there, clearly not moving aside to let them in. Her friends clustered behind her, peering over her shoulder with curious and expectant looks. We're here for breakfast, dear. Open up, we're all quite hungry, Linda announced, as if it was the most natural thing in the world to say. I didn't budge an inch. Actually, there's a lovely cafe just around the corner. I'm sure they'd be delighted to serve you. Linda's face fell, and then twisted into a mask of anger. What on earth are you talking about, Anna? This is your duty, as part of this family, to host us. You're supposed to make us feel welcome and cater to us. Her words were sharp, meant to cut deep, but I stood my ground. Linda, things have changed. I divorced your son. You're essentially strangers to me now. The gasp that rippled through the group could have been mistaken for the wind. Murmurs swirled as Linda's eyes widened in shock, then narrowed in suspicion. That's nonsense, she blustered. I don't believe you. Let me call Eric right now. She fumbled for her phone, her fingers shaking slightly as she dialed. I could hear Eric's voice through the speaker, calm but firm. Mom, Anna's right. We're divorced. Please respect her space. The phone nearly slipped from her grasp as she processed his words. But I thought, her voice trailed off, a mix of confusion and anger brewing in her eyes. I suggest you go enjoy your breakfast at the cafe. They really do have excellent coffee, I said, my tone final. I turned, stepping back into the house and shutting the door firmly behind me. Through the frosted glass, I could see the outlines of Linda and her friends, rooted to the spot in disbelief. They lingered for a moment longer, a cluster of confused and indignant silhouettes, before they slowly dispersed. Inside, the silence was deafening. I leaned against the door, my heart pounding in my chest. I had done it. I had stood up to Linda in a way I never thought possible. The house felt different now, like it was truly mine again, its walls firmer, the air fresher. Eric and I started meeting in secret, like two teenagers sneaking around, trying to avoid strict parents. Our friends knew the drill and played along, keeping our secret safe from Linda's ever-watchful eye. It felt like we were main characters in some spy movie, always looking over our shoulders, whispering in corners. Funny as it sounds, it brought us closer, glued together by our little conspiracy. One chilly evening, huddled in the back booth of our favorite out-of-the-way diner, Eric slid a napkin across the table with something scribbled on it. I unfolded it, and there, in his messy handwriting, was a list of real estate listings. I've been thinking, maybe it's time for a fresh start, somewhere new, somewhere Mom doesn't know about. I looked up, surprised but intrigued. You mean, like a new house? For us? Yeah, somewhere we can really call our own. No bad memories, no unexpected visits. We could even look for something with extra rooms, you know, for the future, he said, winking at me across the table. So, we started house hunting, in secret, of course. Eric found us a realtor who was more than happy to keep our secret and even seemed to enjoy being part of our clandestine operation. After months of searching, we found it, the perfect house. It was tucked away on the outskirts of town, surrounded by trees and with a garden that was just waiting to be filled with laughter and play. The day I got the keys, I drove over alone first, stepping into the empty rooms that echoed with potential. Walking through the garden, I could almost see it, the future we'd dreamed of. I sent Eric a picture with a simple message, our new beginning. He showed up minutes later, his face breaking into a broad grin as he walked through the door. "This is it, huh? This is our home." "It is. And there's something else," I started, taking his hands in mine. "I want us to get married again. For real this time, no secrets, no schemes. Just you and me." His eyes searched mine, then he pulled me close. Nothing would make me happier. We decided to do it quietly. There was something beautifully simple about just walking into the mayor's office, the same place we'd filed for our fake divorce, and re-registering our marriage. No witnesses, no fuss, just the two of us, making our commitment to each other official once again. The official pronounced us husband and wife again, and as we walked out, hand in hand, it felt like the weight of the past year lifted off our shoulders. We were starting over, but this time on our own terms. The day we went back to our old house to collect the last of our stuff, tension was thick in the air. I just knew we weren't going to leave without some kind of showdown. And right on cue, as soon as we pulled up, there were Linda and Mark, waiting for us. As we got out of the car, the surprise was obvious on Linda's face, quickly replaced by a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Eric, Anna, what's all this? Moving out?" "Yeah, Mom, we sold the house. We're just here to pick up a few last things," Eric responded, his voice steady but firm. The color drained from Linda's face. "Sold? But where will you be living?" "We've bought a new house," I chimed in, trying to keep the interaction as brief as possible. "It's much bigger, with a lovely garden. A fresh start for us." Her mood flipped like a switch, and she clapped her hands together, a too bright smile plastered on her face. "Oh, wonderful. Then I can start planning where to host my friends. It'll be nice to have more space. So, where is this new home of yours?" Eric stepped between me and his mother, a protective gesture that spoke volumes. "We're not sharing the address, Mom. We need some privacy." Linda's smile faltered, her eyes narrowing. "Not sharing? What do you mean, Eric? I'm your mother." "That's exactly why, Mom. You've crossed boundaries too many times. This is about protecting our marriage, something I should have done a long time ago." Eric's voice was resolute, cutting through any further protests Linda might have had. "I can't believe you're doing this to me, after everything I've done for you." Linda's voice cracked, her demeanor shifting from cheerful to outraged in a heartbeat. "I love you, Mom, but Anna is my wife. She comes first. I should have supported her more in the past, and I'm sorry for that." Eric turned to me, his eyes apologetic. "I'm sorry, Anna, for all the times I didn't stand up for us." Turning back to his mother, Eric took a deep breath. "We think it's best if you start focusing on enjoying your travels again, not meddling in our lives." Linda looked like she was about to explode, her mouth opening and closing, searching for something to say. Finally, she sputtered, "You'll regret this. You'll see." With that, she stormed off to her car, Mark trailing behind her with a helpless look on his face. We quickly gathered our remaining belongings and loaded up the car. As we drove away, I could see Linda in the rearview mirror, standing in the parking lot, her anger palpable even from a distance. Over the next few months, Linda tried various tactics to get our new address. She called incessantly until Eric and I decided the best response was no response. She even showed up at my clinic, causing a scene that ended with me warning her that next time I wouldn't hesitate to call the police. Finally, after what felt like an endless game of cat and mouse, the call stopped. The unannounced visits ceased. Linda seemed to have accepted, albeit begrudgingly, that her control over our lives was over. Sitting in our new living room, the last light of day spilling through the windows, I felt a profound sense of peace. "Do you think she's really backed off for good?" I asked Eric, not quite able to believe the quiet was real. "I think so," he said, wrapping an arm around me. "And even if she hasn't, we know how to handle it now. Together." We sat there, the weight of the past months lifting slowly. A sense of new beginnings permeated the room, filling it with hope and the promise of peace.